You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZW and 106.1 KZCC Conroe and worldwide on the irlonestar.com.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rick Schissler. I'm a Silver Fox advisor and the founder of OneBestConsult.com. And most importantly today, I'm the host of the Weekly Business Hour. Welcome. We're glad you joined us this morning. I think we've got a great show lined out for you. And before we do that, as I try to do every week on the Weekly Business Hour, I'm going to ask you what I call my question of the day. Just a quick one here. How high are prices going to go? We're in a period where the press and people everywhere are talking about the price of milk, the price of meat, the price of lumber. All these things keep going up, up, up. And to a point that it's almost getting kind of scary. I mean, if you're building a house, it's real scary if you haven't locked into your price. So how high are those prices going to go? Well, don't look at me. I have no idea. But it's a very important thing, in my opinion, for any business, regardless of size, to keep an eye on. Don't lose sleep over it. Just keep an eye on it. Because what's really important to us as small business owners is how high our prices are going to go. In other words, are we going to need, which I think there is a need, to raise our prices, and of course knowing how high, just to cover the increase in cost. First thing you can do is check on what suppliers are doing. Talk to your vendors. Ask them what's going on. What do they foresee over the next 6 to 12 months? Because the worst thing you can do is raise prices a little here, a little there, a little here. Your customers, I guarantee you, they will rebel 99% of the time. You want to figure out what you need when you need it. Doesn't mean you can't do a couple increases in a year depending on what kind of industry you're in. But the point is you need to think through what you are going to need to cover your cost, maybe increase your profit, nothing wrong with that. But you've got to think is, how high do my prices need to go? Hopefully that's helpful to you, and I encourage you, don't be afraid to raise your prices. It's one of the weaknesses that small businesses, including the ones I started and ran, we always were hesitant about price increases. Rare exception not to be. It's understandable. But get what you need to get to grow your business and to pay your bills. Well, first off today, I think we have a wonderful opportunity to plug into what's going on right here in Montgomery County in the business world. If you haven't heard yet, the Lake Conroe Chamber of Commerce has a new president, Scott Harper. Scott was the president some years ago. Many of you will know that. He has come back to the chamber, and he's got a lot of work ahead of him, and he is bearing down, and the business chamber, just like every other business, is having to change post-COVID. So it'll be interesting. I hope that you will find it interesting and valuable to your business to get Scott's sense of what's going on in business, what the chamber's doing to adjust, so that if you're not already a member of the chamber, maybe you'll join the chamber. I think it's a great thing. I think every business should be a member of their local chamber of commerce. Your level of participation is up to you, but they're a great resource of information and networking with business people in your own area. So without further delay, we're going to stop for a moment and we're going to listen to the conversation I previously had with Mr. Scott Harper, president of the Lake Conroe Chamber of Commerce.
The Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service has been dedicated to educating Texans for over a century. In 1915, the Extension Program was established under the federal Smith-Lever Act to deliver university knowledge and agricultural research findings directly to the people. Ever since, AgriLife Extension programs have addressed the emerging issues of the day, serving diverse populations across the state. Texans turn to Extension for solutions in horticulture, agriculture, 4-H and youth, and family and consumer sciences. Extension agents respond not only with answers, but also with resources and services that result in significant returns on investment to boost the economy. Join us Fridays at 1 o'clock for the AgriLife Extension Hour.
Dill Institute, a 501c3 nonprofit, began in 2014 with a mission to strengthen the future of veterans through leadership and entrepreneurship training. We've invested over 1,400 hours of training in our veterans while connecting them with community entrepreneurs and leaders. Our mission is to continue investing in our veterans who have given so much for our country. Please join us in our mission by visiting velinstitute.org. That's VELinstitute.org.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're out and about town here in Conroe, Montgomery County, and we're going to stop in at the local Conroe, Lake Conroe Chamber of Commerce offices. In fact, they're in a new suite of offices. Lots of changes going on there. And we're going to visit with the newly appointed president of the chamber, Mr. Scott Harper. Good morning, Scott. How are you doing?
Doing great, Rick. Thanks for having me today.
Well, thank you for taking time to visit with us. I always enjoy getting out and about and talking to people and having conversations about what's going on in their business. And as I alluded to in the introduction, lots of changes going on in the chamber. You've been recently appointed, but you've been to this rodeo before. Now you've come back. Let's talk about that. Talk about your coming back to the chamber. What motivated you to return to the chamber as its president?
Yeah, I think it was a great opportunity. And a lot of times you don't know what you have until it's gone. After I was recruited back to the Y, which I honestly thought I would retire with the YMCA. It was a great opportunity for me, and I had felt like the chamber during my first stint, we had just been become accredited, and I had received my IOM designation through the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and so I felt like the chamber was in a great spot for a new step as I returned to the Y. But after I returned to the Y and Harvey happened. We brought a new CEO in and some things shuffled around, and then we had COVID that affected everybody. And during my just with the close-knit community of Conroe, I heard that Brian had resigned and was moving to be closer to his family up in Granbury and stay with the chamber. And I was like, that kind of really intrigued me with all the things going on, at the Y and missing my chamber friends. And knowing that Conroe and Montgomery County continue to grow and there's so much potential, and the interesting things that we talked about 5, 6 to 7 years ago when I was with the chamber actually are now in the ground or actually coming to fruition. So it was just a lot of different variables and a unique groundswell of support of people asking me to come back, which I felt was really the tipping point for me. It's really nice to have people that I had been able to serve before have enough trust and respect in me to want me to come back. And so a lot of times you don't have that opportunity to return to an old position, but everything lined up correctly, and I came back to the Y. I came back to the chamber from the Y, and I'm looking forward to it. These last 4 weeks have really flown by. It seems like it was just yesterday when I started, but I'm excited about the direction that we're going already.
Right. And you came back to a lot of change. Obviously, we're on the back end, hopefully, of the COVID situation, so there's upside there. But you came back, first week, you were informed that moving to a different office suite in the chamber building there. You've got a lot of openings and staff that have occurred. So talk to us about all those internal changes in the operation of the chamber.
Yeah, so I told Danielle in the Economic Development Group and Shannon with the CVB that I wasn't going to take it personally, that I started on Monday and they moved out on Tuesday. And so they, with some renovations going on in the tower at City Hall, and with them renovating the old police department building, they've been able to allocate spaces, and they felt that it was important to have economic development and CVB there. During that transition, the Fowler law firm needed a place to go. And so this was all prior to me getting here, but the board and the executive committee offered them the opportunity to relocate into our facility. And so we had to do a lot of switching and changing. Our layout is different, but it's real nice. We actually gained, and you've been in it, a bigger conference room for our side of the building. And so Yeah, we've had to double up a couple people in our offices, but COVID has made us all transition to different workspaces, so it'll be fine. And they've been great tenants. They've officially moved in June 1st, so I've been here just a couple weeks. So working through some of the nuances of having new tenants and codes and keys and all that fun stuff. But you know, business as normal for us. Just you turn left to get into our offices versus going down the hall and turning right. So, but we're ready to go. We're settled in and have some vacant offices now because we've got some staffing opportunities, and that's kind of the next step of what we're focusing on.
Well, you mentioned that vacancy of the positions. You know, one thing that's a plus about that move is that only you and one other person, Beth Shelton, now actually moved into those offices. And so whoever you hire to fill the other position, they're coming into new offices but don't even realize it.
Yeah.
You don't have to say, well, I like this better, or I want that, or can I have that office, so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's you know, we have Melanie up front, so her position and outlook doesn't change much. But yeah, Beth's been a rock star. We've had to roll up our sleeves the last few weeks and do some things with the vacancy of Courtney Galley, who left to go to Lone Star Family Health Center. She had a great opportunity to progress her career. I have wrangled her to continue to be a co-chair of our Athena event since she was in charge of that. And then we're in transition with staff. So she has agreed to stay on to help us with that event since that was kind of one of her ideas to bring to the chamber. And so, yeah, so the other ones, we'll be ready to move in, and everything's there ready for them to start working.
Well, and the fact is, you're looking for how many new people now?
So 3 total. Currently, I actually have, we're under contract with Ashley, who was with us before earlier on and did an amazing job with our marketing communication. So she's under contract to help us on an interim basis in that area. And she's done an amazing job for us the last week and a half, kind of getting us back up to where we needed to go. She had she was turnkey, you know, she came in, remembered the passwords, had updated our website. That really a lot has not happened with that since she had left in November. And so she's done, like I said, a great job there. And then we have Director of Operations and Finance, which has been, it's a very important position, but we have been under contract with the CPA to come in and take care of all of our financial side and reconcile the books with the bank and QuickBooks. I have actually made an offer to a lady to come in and take on that endeavor. The great thing is Chamber is a great networking opportunity, and I've leveraged the relationship with JJ Holly down in the Woodlands, and he has loaned me back my past operations and finance director, and Gina Mitchell, to help us through some of this interim time. And she will actually help train our new person as they onboard. And then we have a special events position that I've interviewed for as well that will take essentially Courtney's spot. And I'm really looking for the right person. Nothing that we do is extremely hard. I'm looking for people that are multifaceted in a lot of different ways, because we're a small team. So we just can't be in silos and do one thing. So if they have, a lot of people I'm finding in the special events area has a lot of experience in marketing and communications, and then even some development opportunities as well. So really excited about the field of applicants that I've been able to speak with.
That's great. I'm glad you're finding that there are folks out there looking for work. You know, that's been one of the challenges that our businesses in Conroe and Montgomery County have had. Because we're experiencing such phenomenal growth. I chair one of the roundtables that the chamber sponsors, our CEO for-profit roundtable particularly, and the members of the chamber are experiencing 20-25% growth, not year over year, but this year compared to the full year before the pandemic. And so I think it's phenomenal, and everybody needs people. Well, we've kind of come to the end of our first segment here. Scott, I need to kind of take a break here for a commercial. If you'll hang on just a little bit, and I'll get back to you and we'll talk a little bit more about the state of the chamber and what you've learned after you've been back for 4 weeks, and what does the future hold for the chamber, at least through the end of this year. If that's fair enough, we'll take this break.
We have the safest food supply in the world. Strict laws and regulations restrict the usage of hormones, antibiotics, and pesticides within our food supply. Production agriculture practices and technologies such as the use of GMOs, which is not any more or less risky than conventional crop production, has allowed American farmers to produce more food on less acres in environmentally sound ways. Find out more online at pathtotheplate.tamu.edu. We are Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, helping Texans make lives better.
Hey, this is Wayne Green, your host for Radio Wayne, Spoke and More. Each Saturday from 5 to 7 p.m., I'll be playing folk, singer-songwriter, Americana, blues, bluegrass, classic country, Cajun Zydeco, Celtic swing, and whatever else seems to fit. Once again, that's Radio Wayne, Spoke and More, every Saturday from 5 to 7 p.m. on Lone Star Community Radio.
Well, we've been having a wonderful conversation this morning with Mr. Scott Harper. Scott was recently reappointed president. He was president of the chamber for a number of years, left for another position, in this case with the YMCA, and has now come back home, so to speak. And he's been on the job about 4 weeks. Lots of changes, and we've talked about those, Scott. Well, let's talk about what you found as far as the chamber's business, and then we'll I'd like to go into sort of the state of the chamber. That's an annual thing I like to talk to all our chamber presidents about. So why don't you lead off and talk about what you found and with the membership and what's going on currently?
Yeah, I think, I want to appreciate Brian and all the hard work he did to build upon the accreditation that we started a few years ago. We started it with a very unique situation, a financial situation. We're able to do that. And then Brian was able to capitalize on some of that momentum and the foundation that was built and get that elevated to a 5-star accreditation. So that's a great opportunity, and also a great pressure point, right, to continue and maintain and operate at that level. Brian did an amazing job too, elevating the government affairs. Was an area that of all the ones that we talked about during my tenure, it was one that it was very relevant, but he was able to elevate it to a whole nother level. And so that is an area of focus that we will continue. Essentially the strategic plan had been set. And so, we're really going to look at, and a lot of the pillars, as we refer to it in our area, of membership, governmental affairs, leadership, programming and special events, business and economic development, and administration are kind of the main areas of focus. Those will not change. I was at a meeting not too long ago talking about, when I was originally here, saw some notes from early on in the chamber world and the areas that were education, water, infrastructure, and transportation. And I don't think any of those have changed either. So, those are going to be things that we focus on. What I've seen is there is a lot of people that are hungry for information. And I think COVID has redefined what that information is in some ways and how we're going to get it. And so we got to continue looking at how we come out and emerge from the pandemic as a chamber, because some people have continued doing what they need to without the chamber in theory. So how do we bring us back to the forefront of being an essential part of their business? And then really, how do we show and leverage that value of what we're able to bring to the table for those memberships? And so those are some of the biggest things that have stuck out. Meeting with some of the local officials, it sounds like some of the politics have not changed. Some of them has. So, but the good thing about the chamber is we've got to stay neutral and in the middle and present opportunities for both sides to tell their story, so we can better educate our community as well. I had a great opportunity already to meet with Chase Houston out at the San Jacinto River Authority to talk through the situations that are going on out there and all the different things that are going on in the political world and just really the operational world of the River Authority. So that was great. And I will continue to do that with all the new, well, not necessarily new faces, but with me coming back, being new and getting updates from them, being out of this position for about 6 years now. But still have a good pulse of what's going on in the area, but just getting it a deeper level. And our board is very committed. I kudos to Dr. Riley and the search committee that they put together and keeping essentially the chamber operating with 3 staff without a president in position. And volunteers don't necessarily volunteer for that aspect of it when they're coming into the chamber, but to do a national search and going through that process, it's long and hard, and I'm glad that it all worked out and I was their choice in the end.
You mentioned the Government Affairs Committee, and I think business people that are listening to this conversation we're having, that committee and that strategic part of the strategic plan, is very important to business. I think it's more important today maybe than it's been somewhat in the past, at least in my memory, because of our Washington is just totally in turmoil and very divisive. So connections through our state representatives, local, county, and city officials, and I think the chamber does an excellent job of providing those opportunities to see these people, to talk to them even personally, and connect and understand where things are going. And, it's a wonderful thing the chambers do. So kudos to you, the chamber, over the past several years in particular, to really raise that particular interest or important issue of your government affairs to the level you have.
I think when they shifted, and Courtney gave me a little bit of the background of shifted to the Pulse series and, keeping the pulse of things that are going on and really elevated that, the state of the education, state of the county. We are in the process. We thought we were going to be able to pull off our state of the state here in June, but it looks like we might have to push that back. We want to coordinate with multiple offices, and with our elected officials sometimes takes a little longer than need be. So we're working on that so we can make sure we can find a date. But my first week or second week, that first Monday of my second week, we had State of the County. It was one of our first public events that the chamber has hosted, and we had to turn some people away to eat, but we gave them a place to sit if they came in, and that was a great event. Judge Keogh gave us a great update on what was going on, how they navigated COVID, and then the next also getting our new city manager or city mayor on to do state of the city. That'll be a kind of coordinate anywhere from 6 to 7 months after he was put into place, and so it'll be a great event as well. So those will be our next 2 that are on the docket, from state of the state and then state of the city. So looking forward to that, and it really brings information to a new level of being able to be in the room and ask questions, and so far so good with those. So those dates are pending, but they will be published as soon as we get those scheduled with those offices.
Right. Again, there's lots of important decisions, lots of things changing. Whenever you have growth like the county's experiencing, infrastructure is out there right now, and that's very important to any business person. Regardless of what kind of business, if you ship product out, you've got to have transportation access. And so again, what are some other issues that you've come upon the chamber's dealing with and will continue to deal with at least through the end of the year?
Yeah, I think it's really heightening our offerings, what we're able to do. I think some of our special events that we're able to use as a promotional opportunity of what the chamber does, and really highlighting our members. And I'll tell you, just when you're a businessman, you know how A plus B doesn't always equal C. Well, typically our Taste Fest event that we host historically in the spring is usually where a deadline, I'd say close to 80% of our restaurants renewals are in the spring, because they have to be a member to be in Taste Fest. Well, we canceled that. And so the sense of urgency for them to renew hasn't been there. And they're coming off the heels of the ramifications of COVID, and we're pushing it off into January or to December for what we're calling a Taste of a Seasons event. So there's this lull now of, hey, we need to get these restaurants involved, because I like to eat, and I'm going to support the chamber members, and I'm going to go eat at the current chamber members. I need the other ones to sign on. But it's those mechanisms too, as you know, as people get conditioned to sign up at certain times, because that leads into an event. And that's a challenge that I'm going to have with my staff as I build them, and my board, is that they should be members regardless if there's an event. They should see the value of the chamber, not just because of Taste Fest, but because of the opportunities they're able to be in front of their elected officials at a new level, or the information that we're going to have, inside information that we're going to get maybe earlier than others about what's going on downtown Conroe or what's going on down 105. Some parts of the business will never change, but I think if we do it the right way, we're able to get people to join us because of who we are, and not, like I said, tagged along and assigned to an event, which it's a great event for them to showcase, but that shouldn't be the only reason they're a member. So that's just something as we go into and build our team, and as we focus on membership, on retention and recruitment, how do we invite those people back? And then to sit down and talk to them and see what has COVID done, and what's been the real impact, and is there something that as a chamber can we help them back into their membership? If it's really a barrier because of finances, then what can we do to make that happen for them? I've got some businesses that we toyed around with, would they consider scholarshiping a small business as part of their membership investment? Would they scholarship in and cover those fees for a small business, and kind of adopt them for a year to help them get back on their feet? So some of those ideas we're kicking around. We haven't implemented any of them yet, but we're trying to figure out unique ways to help those businesses that have suffered.
Wow, that's interesting. I think that's something folks have. I mean, your business, if you will, the chamber business, was challenged during COVID. I mean, because you lost membership because people necessarily hadn't cut back, particularly the smallest of the businesses. And so now the ability to build your membership back, great example that you'll relate to. I was reading yesterday a letter from the current CEO of the YMCA of Greater Houston. They've got new membership back to 40,000. Pre-pandemic, it was 60,000. And you and I both know firsthand how. So our organizations in our community, like the Chamber of Commerce, they took a hit too. And so often, as individuals and businesses, we don't think about it. In my work with the nonprofits, I watched some amazing things that the nonprofits did to not only survive but thrive, because they were out there assisting people in the middle of it. But it's a great thing to see. Well, we're about out of time, but I'd like you to mention something you touched on in the beginning. Is the chamber is an accredited chamber, and a lot of people don't get that. I didn't know what it was when someone said, well, the chamber is working for accreditation. And how important though is that to the city of Conroe, Montgomery County, to the Conroe, Lake Conroe Chamber of Commerce? How important, or what is the real value of that accreditation to our chamber and our businesses?
Well, I think it's one of those things that it's not being boastful or bragging, but we're the only accredited chamber in Montgomery County, and so that should say something in the fact that we went through the process of being screened and audited in every facet of our operations, from the financial side to our operational side to what are our emergency evacuation plans of our facility. What are, how do we respond to certain things that happen in the community? And we have plans for that. And there's a plan and it's documented. And this is how it's going to, how we're going to respond. And it was a great tool for me to go actually through and find the accreditation files that were just submitted. So then it kind of updated me on what the chamber was doing differently than what we were doing, a few years ago when we were a 3-star chamber. So, it elevates us at the time. I don't know the official stats now, but, one of only 20 something chambers in the state of Texas. And like I said, top 3% of all chambers in the country. But it's the litmus test. It's the standards that the U.S. Chamber of Commerce wants all the chambers to work toward. And I don't think there's a better benchmarking opportunity for any of the chambers to do that. It's extensive. It's a lot of work, but I just think it really shows the value and the effort and the professionalism that we go through to make sure that our chamber is representing the businesses the best they can. And it also allows a lot of opportunities to network with other accredited chambers across the country to share and steal shamelessly ideas of what's happening in their community, and for us to implement those into our community to support our businesses too.
It's an amazing, once you understand it, as I did as a former board member, the opportunity to represent to the public, to your business members and potential members, that your first class chamber of commerce and operate that way. Scott, I can't help thank you enough. Appreciate you giving us some time to stop by, had a conversation. Let me welcome you back publicly on the weekly business hour, and hopefully have you back at the end of the year, first of the new year, to get an idea of what really is going on in the chamber. And you just have a wonderful day and enjoy your opportunity to sort things out.
Thank you. I really appreciate you and all your support and your involvement with the chamber as well. We couldn't do it without people like you and volunteers and giving your time and supporting us. So I appreciate you, Rick.
Well, thank you so much. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Scott Harper. Again, I encourage you, if you're not a member of a Chamber of Commerce, join one. It's got a great benefit to you and your business, in my opinion. We're going to take our bottom of the hour break now, and I hope you'll stick around. And in the meantime, remember, if you've got a question or an observation, something you'd like for us to talk about, drop me an email. It's real simple. You just send it to onebest, B-E-S-T, consult, C-O-N-S-U-L-T, at gmail.com. That's onebestconsult at gmail.com. I love the questions. I love your observations, your comments, everything. Please send it to me. In fact, if you've got a question about a business situation or something, it may end up on the air, and I won't use your name, I promise you. Please send your questions. I answer all my emails. Thanks.
Did you know there are more than 790 abused and neglected children currently in foster care in Montgomery County? Will you help make a difference? I'm Allie Stevens with Casa Child Advocates of Montgomery County. We train and support volunteers to be the voice of children in the foster care system. Kids are removed from their home because of abuse and neglect, and we need volunteers just like you to advocate for these children. To learn more about becoming an advocate, please visit CasaSpeaksForKids.com. That's CasaSpeaksForKids.com.
Do you want to know what's going on in Conroe? Tune in to Keeping Up with Conroe. Keeping Up with Conroe will highlight upcoming events and local businesses in the area. Keeping Up with Conroe will air the second Tuesday of every month at 11 a.m. and will be hosted by the Conroe CVB staff. Keeping Up with Conroe will highlight Conroe's amazing attractions for residents and visitors. So tune in to Keeping Up with Conroe and join the staff of the Conroe CVB every month on Lone Star Community Radio. For more information about Keeping Up with Conroe and the Conroe CVB, go to visitconroe.com.
Well, first, thank you for listening to the Weekly Business Hour. We're into the third segment of our program today, and we've got a very interesting guest, I think, Mr. Peter Dill. Peter is a supply chain expert. He's actually written a book about it, a very insightful book that takes the supply chain and kind of shows you how it really applies to your business. Because this is sort of a corporate thing, right? Big business, supply chain. I don't need to worry about that. I have vendors, this and that. Well, you're part of the supply chain. So I encourage you to listen to what Peter has to say. Again, he offers some insightful, just general business ideas that I think are really unique and potentially could be a benefit to you and your business. And in the meantime, don't forget, if you'd like to sponsor the show, you're a local business here in Montgomery County, please reach out and contact me. at Rick, R-I-C-K, at irlonestar.com. Please let me know. Appreciate your sponsorships. And now let's listen to a conversation with Mr. Peter Dill. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're on the road again. Today we're going to talk to an author of a new business book that's out there that is a good read. A little specific audience, though, as far as it's not a general book, but one that is worthy of those that work in the area. And we have with us Mr. Peter Dill. Peter has written a book just released called Control What You Can, The Principles of Purchasing and Supply Chain Leadership. Good morning, Peter. How are you?
Oh, I'm great, Rick. Thanks so much for having me on your show.
Well, let me ask you quickly, what motivated you to write this book?
Well, I'll tell you what, Rick, in the advent of COVID, we had an opportunity to either, buckle down and just try and survive, or we can produce things and lead through a challenge. And while my wife was getting her CPA, she said, you find something else to do. And what I decided to do is do one of my life bucket lists, shall we say, and publish my first book. And so during this COVID crisis, the silver lining for me is publishing a book on supply chain leadership and really about life compared to what some folks have said and who've read it around the world.
Well, as I mentioned in the introduction there, this really appeals to a specific audience, but like you say, it has some appeal to a general audience. What is your target audience with the book?
My target audience is those in purchasing, supply chain, procurement. So pretty much everybody on the other side of the sales end of things who are buying things and negotiating things for a living. I happen to work in the chemical industry, but it could be anybody who's buying things for automotive, chemical, technical things, or really buying anything, even if you're just going out there to buy a car for yourself or going to Walmart.
Well, it's very interesting. Again, the title I love, Control What You Can, written during the pandemic. I mean, where so much was out of control. But I think a lot of amazing things have come out of the pandemic, and writing a book to me would be one of those things. How has the response been to the book?
The response has been great, more than I ever expected. Again, wasn't expecting, all kinds of sales, those kind of things. I just wanted to share the expertise I've learned over 30 years of purchasing and working in supply chain around the world. We've had purchases in the UK, in Germany, all across the US. And what's really interesting is we've had some folks purchase the book who actually aren't in purchasing, people who are in sales who want to understand the purchasing mindset, people in real estate, people across different walks of life. And I've asked for, comments and reviews and what do you think about the book? And I've said, what do you think about purchasing? They said, purchasing. This book's about life. Simple concepts like clear requirements, controlling what you can when it comes to logistics, speaking with one voice. One example that I like to share is when we talk about clear requirements. Clear requirements can be something as simple as how even inside your own family. When I tell one of my kids, come home at a reasonable hour, well, we've already failed. We've already miscommunicated. We're already not giving clear requirements. My son or daughter might think coming in at a reasonable time might be 12:30, 1 o'clock. I may have in mind 10:30, so we've already kind of mixed it up. But if you think about sharing a concept like that inside your family, inside people who work with you, or even just buying anything, or just sharing a plan you have, you've got to have clear requirements. And those things have those insights have helped a lot of people from feedback I've been getting.
Well, obviously, having a good, concise communication helps in any situation, personal or business. Now, another area, though, of life lessons to give people an idea. I know there's quite a bit written in the book, or a good bit about encouragement. Talk about how the encouragement aspect comes through.
Well, it really comes through whether you're talking in your family, in a work environment, or those kind of things. We all know that we feel our best when we do our best and when we have managers, leaders who are encouraging. When you think about the word encouragement, it means give courage, encourage, give courage to someone. And when we have this stressful COVID world, or we have trying to make our numbers in any kind of business environment, or in any kind of whether you work in a restaurant or those kind of things, if you give courage to those who work for you or trying to do their best for you, they're going to do their best. They're going to feel relaxed. They're going to give you their best ideas. They're going to do all those type of things. That's going to make the work environment so much better for all those concerned and produce results. And that's really what we're about, feeling comfortable enough to produce results, whether you're buying, selling, or doing anything really.
Well, and obviously that's true. Again, I'm sort of getting into the book even deeper. I feel this is a book that could benefit a wide range of audience. And I think that's unusual because at first blush, supply chain, right? Pretty heady area of discipline. But the idea that you've been able to put it together with lessons for life or things that can be used in other businesses, I think it's a real credit to your ability. Well, let me ask you, the idea that, control what you can. I mean, that's good advice in any situation, personal, business, whatever it might be. Talk a little bit about that, because I mean, that's your title. And so that's the theme of the book, I assume. So what can you offer the reader to help them understand and be more effective in controlling what they can?
Well, in so many things, Rick. Sometimes you're being asked to do something. You may not have all the inputs or the data or whatever it is you need. And you just say, I don't have everything I need, but I'm going to make a decision based on what I do know. My father used to tell me, you make the best decisions you can based on what you know at the time. In this COVID world, people have had to say, well, I'm working from home. How do I produce results that way? Or, a mother with all her kids at home. Well, how am I going to keep them interested? How am I going to keep everybody from going crazy? We're going to go on some walks or whatever those things are. You control what you can. Instead of look at all the things you can't and get frustrated or paralyzed, you need to be able to look and say, what can I control? And sometimes it may be as simple as just putting one foot in front of the other, or just getting creative. We're going to have to do things differently. But I think a lot of people are going to come out of this whole COVID crisis, maybe through reading a book like this. And by the way, it's very short. It's 100 pages, just a collection of interlinked essays that people can really get through and have a whole new mindset and look at this and say, I'm going to control what I can. I'm not going to get frustrated by the things I can't. I'm going to engage where I can. I'm going to encourage others. Another thing we talk about is your mindset. Your mindset. How do you set your mind? How are you going to approach others? How are you going to encourage others? Those type of things, I think, can bring people around and deliver success. And success may be just having a positive mindset so you can deliver and work as a team.
One of the things I didn't do, and I should have done at the beginning of our discussion today, because there's going to be folks that listen and watch our discussion today, purchasing and supply chain. Define that simply, if you could, because people in many walks of life are not going to know what that is.
Certainly. So, like I said, purchasing is really just the other side of sales, where a salesperson is out there trying to, sell and produce and talk about the positive aspects of what they have to offer, whether it's a car, a computer, some clothing, and those kind of things. Purchasing are the people on the other side of that coin, working for a company, saying, I'm going to be a good steward of my company's resources. I'm going to get the best thing, quality, service, technology, and price for my company and negotiate a good deal. So really, purchasing can be purchasing widgets, can be purchasing cars, can be purchasing services, all those things we just talked about, whether it's for a chemical corporation, an automotive corporation, a restaurant, any of those things. It's really just buying things. It can be buying logistics services, any of that stuff. And like I said, I've done that 30 years, lived 16 years overseas, worked for some major corporations like General Motors, FMC Technologies, Seva Logistics, and now currently Huntsman, and have a lot of good experience, and even applied some great stories in this book from family, like I mentioned, from my time in the Navy, from working across different companies, and lessons learned. Some were hard lessons and school of hard knocks, but others are successes I hope I can share with others and they can benefit from them.
Well, let me ask you just the broad general question that there is. What do you hope to achieve from a success point of view with this particular book?
Well, what I hope to achieve is really just offering perhaps the person who's thinking about a career in purchasing or sourcing or logistics, these are some guideposts, some ideas about what you need to know and how you should approach that. Also, for the person halfway through their career, say, these are things I need to make sure I get back into and focus on. And even people at the higher level of their career, these are the things, as I guide my organization, I should pay attention to and guide the purchasing managers, directors, those kind of things. But also, like we said before, had a lot of great feedback from people who have nothing to do with purchasing. So this is a great life lesson book to help me navigate life and improve myself and engage with others. And oh, by the way, if you're out there interviewing, I've had several people say, wow, this did set me apart during interviews. We know a lot of people out there are out looking for jobs, and we know the economy is getting ready to pick up. So it's been a help for a lot of other people.
Well, I've got to ask the question, is there another book in the offing?
Yeah, I've been getting asked a lot of questions about that. And there may be one. This is one of my life bucket lists, including, reading running a marathon, reading the Bible, those kind of things. Right now, I'm still looking at that, but for those who are interested, you can certainly find it on Amazon. Control What You Can, and we've had some great feedback from great sales so far.
Well, it's fantastic. I think the blending of a very specific topic such as supply chain management, purchasing, and making it a life lesson book, like you say, that could benefit a wide range of individuals. That's a wonderful challenge that you have taken on and that you have met with this book. And I encourage people, go to Amazon and look for Control What You Can. Peter, any final words of wisdoms in the 30 seconds we've got left today?
Well, I just have to say again, control what you can, take advantage of the things that you can understand and grasp, and encourage others, give clear requirements, and just keep moving on and leading through the challenge. Thanks so much, Rick, for having me.
Well, thank you for taking time and visiting with us today. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short commercial break, and then we'll be right back with you. Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Peter. As promised, I think that conversation has a lot of general business ideas and encouragement. I think his book, it's a short book, it's not a big in-depth business book, can offer even the smallest business some ideas and some courses of action that can really benefit your business. And we're going to take our third and final break of the day. And when we come back, I'm going to give my tip of the week, which is, to me, is really interesting. And it's about pricing. I started the show talking about inflation, and I'm going to talk about pricing. I had a really interesting conversation with a roundtable of small business people lately. Their observations and their attitude about pricing, inflation, I think is very germane to what we all do in our business. So please stay with us, and we'll be right back with you.
Second Saturday Divorce Workshop provides unbiased information to help you understand your options and move forward with your life. This divorce workshop is for you if you are contemplating divorce, in the process of divorce, already filed for divorce, or post-divorce. You will explore the emotional, legal, and financial aspects of divorce from professionals who have guided others through divorce. For more information on this divorce workshop, contact SecondSaturdayWoodlands.com or call 832-375-0900.
Listen in Mondays at noon to hear Conroe news from local nonprofits, businesses, upcoming events, Conroe Park events, news stories, and information that matters to you with your host, Margie Taylor of Taylorized PR. For more information about being a guest, visit irlonestar.com/Conroe Culture.
Well, thank you for being a part of our show today. We're in our fourth and final segment. We're going to talk a little bit in the tip of the week about pricing. But, one of the things that concerns me, and pricing, again, is something that's on everybody's mind, at least what they're paying for things, and it's important. But let me give you a couple, say 3, maybe 4 ideas. As you come off an event like where you come off, everybody, to some extent, some a lot more, you're kind of off base a little bit. And obviously, it is important that you get yourself, your family, and your business back on track. And that's a challenging thing to do, because on track is where you make money, right? Your business runs efficiently, things happen. You're back on your plan, you know where you want to take. Let me offer you 3 things to kind of look at, to be sure you look at, that I hope would help you get there. First of all, remember, and this is a general principle, don't do things you aren't good at. You know, I so many clients, I'll find people working at 10, 11 o'clock at night doing their bookkeeping, for an example, because, you know, they're a small business. They just started a year or two ago. They have 1 or 2 employees, maybe 3, 4. They've got plans to grow, but they insist on staying up after they've worked a full day and try to do their bookkeeping or their payroll, or, you know, a lot of times it's administrative things. Please, please find somebody to do that. There's lots of services, lots of things out there. In the area of sales marketing, there's opportunities, believe it or not. So please, take stock of yourself if you haven't already done so. And if there's something you're really not good at, meaning you really don't like it or you're not good at it, even though you try, let somebody else do it. Next thing is, don't lose sight of why you're doing what you're doing. In other words, why you got into business, why you got into this business. It's real easy after coming off the last year or two, obviously, of just, you know, confusion. And that's a nice word. For some of us, it was really devastating. Restaurants had to close. Other businesses had to get by with less people or fewer customers, had to adjust and go online more. Then all these things happen. And it is easy, real easy for us as human beings, as business owners, to lose sight of why we got in business. What's your mission? You know, what's your exit strategy? These things reveal why you got in business. So don't forget them. It's very important, again, as I mentioned earlier, get back on track. Get back on your plan for you, your family, and your business. Yes, you may be doing the day-to-day things, but are you still focused on where you want to go? And last but not least, don't ignore the math of decisions that you make. Again, lots of things moving. I've had this when we did this roundtable recently and talked about pricing and stuff. And people said, gosh, things are happening. It's opening. We got shortages. We got this, that. And there's a lot of moving around day to day, hour to hour, minute to minute decisions being made, more than usual. That's when mistakes get made. That's when you have to be sure that somebody from a numbers point of view is analyzing these major decisions that are being made. And if you don't want to do them, again, find somebody. There are people out there that will work with you. Your accountant, CPA. There are other people you can hire to analyze a business situation, a new product. In other words, what does it take to make it profitable? What kind of margins you need? Don't skip these steps. And if you haven't done some of that in the past, do it now so that you are as efficient as possible. This is important. So welcome back to business. Glad you're here. And as we close out our show today, I want to point out that this continues to be a pre-recorded show. The studio itself, Lone Star Community Radio, will be moving into permanent headquarters. We'll be back live on the air, I hope. I really enjoy that. But again, please send in your comments. Send us an email, onebestconsult@gmail.com. And until next week, as I have said for years and years and years, stay focused on what's important to your business. We're all different. And so until next week, thank you and God bless.